Okay, welcome back, or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's second episode of Paranormal Encyclopedia. Tonight we will be talking about what I mean when I say demonology. Um, Demonology is not the only subject I cover on the show. It is the main subject. It is my particular area of expertise within the field of the paranormal. So I think it behooves us to talk about the basics of what's going on. I do see I have live viewers. If somebody could just let me know in the chat if they can hear me, I'd appreciate it. I think I've got this working right now. Welcome back, Teresa Hall. So, what is demonology? And welcome back, Lisa for Truth. So, what is demonology? What do I mean when I say that I'm a demonologist? Well, demonology is a little complicated to explain. If you look it up in a dictionary, it is the study of and the doctrines of concerning demons, which is technically true, but not a useful definition because the word demon is a very loaded term, and a lot of people have different ideas about what it means. My mentor, the late Lou Gentili, if you wonder who that is, watch the Who Am I stream. But he would define demonology as the study of evil. And that's more accurate, although more specifically our concern is spiritual evil. Philosophically speaking, evil is usually divided into two broad categories. Moral evil, which is the evil that humans do, which would be murder, rape, and all the other horrible crimes. Natural evil, which would be disease, famine, natural disasters, which aren't evil in the sense that they don't have. Obviously, a tornado has no malicious intent, but it kills people, including innocent people. So, in philosophical arguments about the nature of evil, it's considered natural evil. What we're talking about here is what you might call diabolical or preternatural evil. So let's get some basic terms out of the way, because this is going to make a lot more sense if we lay a fundamental groundwork of what the words I'm using mean. So let's start with the obvious. What is a demon? Well, the word demon comes from the Greek daemon. How you spell that depends on who you ask. There's multiple different valid spellings in ancient sources. What it means also depends on who you ask. Aristotle wrote about demons, and when he wrote about demons, he saw them as guiding spirits. They could be good or evil, but they kind of filled the role of guardian angels, and to some extent they were muses. Not muses in the great giant sense of the gods that were muses, but they're the people. What most people mean when they say my muse, they provided inspiration. So the next big way that the word daemon is used, which is very different from the way that Aristotle used it, was the way that Homer, the poet, used it. Homer uses the word daemon in the Iliad and the Odyssey as another word for God. Usually he more specifically means lesser gods, not like the big 12 of Olympus, Zeus, and Hades and all of them, but the more minor gods. So daemon is guiding spirits. Daemons are gods. Then a philosopher by the name of Xenocrates hits the scene. Or Xenocrates, excuse me. Xenocrates proposes an order of beings that are less than the gods, but opposed to them. This definition, which starts in ancient Greece, so this is not a uniquely Christian idea, is where daemon, in the sense that the New Testament uses it, means. So demons, or daemons, if you would prefer, are malevolent spirits. They are spirits that actively oppose the divine for some reason, and in more specifically, in terms of demonology, they are spirits that hate human beings. Why they hate human beings, for that matter, why they hate the divine, is actually, even within Christianity, a matter of some debate. But that's a demon. Demon is three traits unite what I call demons. One, they're not human, nor are they animals. They are spirits that have never had a physical form on this earth. Two, they despise humans. And three, they despise the divine. And I'm very careful to say the divine here, not God, not Jesus, because they will react with equal anger if you bring up the name Jesus or the name Buddha or the name Zeus. They don't like anything associated with positive spirituality. Now, that's demon. That's the basic idea. Demonology is the study of these spirits. That's a bit of a misnomer, though, because there are other types of spirits that fall into this category that we don't call demons. There's basically three broad categories of spirit that we're talking about here. The weakest form are imps and familiars, which are messenger spirits. They're errand boys of the other types of spirits. Imps are the most common thing you see if you're dealing with a haunted house that has a demon in it instead of a ghost. And the majority of haunted houses have ghosts. Demons are very rare. But the majority of the time, if it has a demonic spirit in it, it's what we call an imp. Imps usually appear as very small beings, no more than 3 feet in height. They can appear human-like. They often appear as animals, cats, dogs, owls. You see mentions of what sound like imps, assuming this isn't imaginings of these children, all through the Salem witch trial records that we were talking about at the end of the last episode. But they're the flunky for more powerful spirits. The next one up the line, or down the line, as it were, are demons. They're the grunt soul. If you think of infernal spirits, which is probably the best name for this entire classification of spirit, as an army, you have the non-soldier. No, imps and familiars are different than fairies, but I'll come back to that because it's an excellent question, Teresa. But if imps are the new recruits that are still in boot camp, as it were, demons are the grunt soldiers. The guys that know what they're doing, the guys who've been fighting for a while. There's at least one or arguably 2 or 3 more layers after that. The next ones are devils. The word devil also comes from Greek. Big surprise, given the oldest New Testament documents we have are written in Greek. But it comes from the Greek diabolos. Diabolos means slanderer or accuser. Fun fact, Satan in Hebrew means the accuser. The word diabolos, or devil, is basically, diabolos is a Greek translation of Hebrew Satan, and devil is a translation of Greek diabolos. They are the generals. They are the higher ranking officers in the forces, in the infernal spirits. Demons most often it's imps. Next most common is demons. Devils usually only get personally involved once you reach the point of a full-blown possession. And I'll get to that if we have time, because there's a lot of information. This is a huge subject that people can and have written entire books on. I'm trying to condense into about 20 minutes. But above the devils are the archdevils, and then Satan, which are basically another type of devil, and then Satan himself. Archdevils are the people that you see mentioned in scripture and most folklore. Beelzebub, Belial, Mephisto, Mephistopheles. These are devils. And then at the very bottom, the most powerful of them all would be Satan himself. This is a really important point that many Christian demonologists get wrong. Satan doesn't come possess little Susie down the street. This is a fundamental theological mistake that people make that annoys me to no end. Satan is a finite being. God is omnipresent. God is everywhere simultaneously. But if Satan is somewhere, if Satan is possessing a little girl down the street, he's not in hell. He is not in Washington, D.C. screwing around with the politicians. He's not in Russia possessing Vladimir Putin. He is possessing that little girl down the street. That is all that he is doing. That is the only place that he is. He can go somewhere else very, very quickly. But he can't be in two places at once. Because of that fact, because he is a finite being, Satan only personally gets involved in the sort of events that change the course of human history. The people that... There's one person in human history we know was possessed by the devil himself, because the Bible tells us he was possessed by the devil himself. And that was Judas Iscariot. The Last Supper, it says that Judas ate a piece of bread, and then as the bread came in, Satan came in with it. That is the only absolutely confirmed time a person was possessed by Satan. Obviously, a pretty important point in human history. Another example of when it might have been Satan, and this is definitely a might, not a certain, is in Stalin or the Nazi regime. Although many demonologists do, I personally do not believe that Hitler was possessed by Satan himself. Mostly because Hitler was too stupid. Satan is many things. He is not a fool. And Hitler basically, he handed a victory to the Allies on a silver platter because of his incompetence. A friend of mine who's been on the show before, John Hartness, who wrote a wonderful series of books called Quincy Harker Demon Hunter. The main character has a conversation with Satan, where Satan says, "You are the second most person I've hated the most in human history." Like the first being Jesus? No, the first being Hitler. Satan saying he handed Hitler everything he needed, and he fucked it up. Himmler, on the other hand, who was very intelligent and very organized, and very deep into the occult, might be a candidate for being possessed by Satan. Particularly given Himmler is the one who organized the Holocaust. I don't know for certain. I know the Catholic Church does believe that Hitler was possessed, and I'm not saying that's wrong. I just don't think it was Satan that did it. I don't think Satan would have been as incompetent. So the thing that many of you may be wondering, because this is not a show just for Christians. I'm not here to judge your religious beliefs if you don't have my beliefs, or even if you're an atheist or an agnostic who has no religious beliefs. That's not the purpose of this show. You'll never hear me say that you're going to hell because you don't agree with me. I don't believe that. And I think it's sinful to say that because the Bible says to judge not unless you be judged. You guys those of you who are new will find I'm a fairly liberal Christian in a lot of ways. I'm very much for equal rights. I'm very much for the principle, I believe in LGBT rights, and I'm also very much of the belief in the principle of mind your own business. What two consenting adults choose to do in the privacy of their own home is none of my business. It's none of your business. It's none of the government's business. As long as everyone consents, as long as everyone is of an appropriate age, keep your nose out of it. I don't want to go down that road too much, but just to give the newcomers a warning. So I've got about 6 minutes left. What am I going to do with my last 6 minutes? Let me go over real quick, and if I have to run over, I run over. Big deal. What demons are, I guess, is the next thing I should talk about. In a future video, I'll do how a demonic attack happens. So the question that comes in all of this, and yes, Lisa, I know that you're an atheist. And Simon H., yes, I do believe that things like the Holocaust, the witch hunts, the Inquisition were manipulated into maybe some of it may have been instigated by the devil. I tend to believe that a lot of it is done by us because humans are actually pretty horrible on our own. We don't need Satan to make us do evil things. And that's something else worth pointing out. This is more of a subject for the next video, and maybe I'll do it tonight since I finally seem to have the technology sorted out and I'm in a pretty good place. But there's a difference between what's called the ordinary activity of demons and the extraordinary activity of demons. The ordinary activity of demons is temptation. The majority of ways that demons interact with humans is ordinary. Just as we all have that voice that we hear that tells us to do the right thing, to help people, to be a better person. If you don't have, just about everyone in the world has that voice, what we call our conscience. If you don't have one, something's wrong. But there's the other voice that you hear sometimes. And in my experience and having talked to many different people, everyone hears it. The voice that says, nobody will notice if you take a couple bucks out of the till at work. The voice that says, nobody saw you back into your neighbor's car. Just drive away. You don't need to leave a note. It'll just send your insurance rates up. That would be what I mean by the ordinary activity of demons, which isn't to say that voice is always demonic. A lot of the times it's just your own head. But I think sometimes it is. And there's the other part of that voice, which is even more insidious. Maybe the worst thing that voice does. You're no good. Nobody will love you. You're worthless. The most insidious temptation, the most insidious attack isn't when demons push you to do horrible things to other people. It's when they push you to think horrible things about yourself and to see yourself as someone who doesn't have self-worth. Let me quote a good friend of mine, an exorcist, in fact, who sadly is no longer with us. God called him home. His name was Pastor Joseph Rose. He's one of the mentors I've had in life, along with Lou Gentili. Pastor Joe said, God does not make junk. I'm here to tell you, I don't care who you are. You're not worthless. Don't listen to that voice. If you really hear it a lot, consider seeking professional counseling. Because depression is a real issue and is not caused by demons. Let's be absolutely clear. The voices that people hear in their heads are usually not demons. Usually it's your own mind. It's your own mind. There is treatment. You can get help. It can be helpful, psychologically speaking, although I would encourage you to talk to a therapist instead of just taking my advice, because I am not a licensed therapist, to externalize it and see it as something you can fight and defeat and overcome. That doesn't make it something that's actually separate from yourself. But that's what I mean by the ordinary activity of demons. This show is mostly concerned with the extraordinary activity of demons. So that's possession, making objects fly around the room, talking animals. Yes, that's actually happened. We'll get into that next episode because that gets weird and easily its own subject. Let me, real quick, before I stop this stream, and yes, I think I'll start a third. My live viewers, let me know if you're up for another one of these short videos after this one in chat. But real quick, I want to explain 3 major Christian theories about where demons come from. There are other theories. Demons are not an idea unique to Christianity. Every religion has these negative spirits, and they have a lot of very similar traits. And I'm a real pragmatic guy. I don't care if you call it a demon, a dybbuk, a sheedim, a jinn, Loki, ice giant. There's a million names in a million cultures, all talking, in my opinion, about the same thing. You just slap a different name on it, maybe change the face around a little, and it's a demon. But in Christianity, there are 3 theories about why we have demons in this world. And I'm going to go over them real quick. One is one most people know, which is Satan, Lucifer or Samael, some archangel got pissed off with God and said, I'm going to start my own heaven with hellfire and brimstone. Started a war in heaven, Usually thought that he was trying to supplant God and become a god himself. There are other theories. A very popular one that's been making the rounds lately is that he actually was ticked off about humans and the special place that we were given in God's creation. I don't know, but basically, Satan decides to do a walkout, starts a war in heaven. The Archangel Michael lines up all the angel, the 2/3 of the angels still loyal to God. Curb stomps Satan, what was probably the shortest one-on-one fight in the history of existence, and goes long, bums rush, throws him across the universe, and he lands in hell. In this theory, the difference between demons and devils is a question of rank. Angels have ranks. Angels, archangels, seraphim, cherubim, phantom, powers, dominions, on and on and on and on. The lowest rank, what are called guardian angels that fell, become demons. The archangels, the thrones, the powers, the principalities become devils. Theory number 2. This is where it starts. Actually, there's 4 theories. But theory number 2, this is where it starts to get weird. Genesis 6, 1-4, talks about the sons of God who lusted after the daughters of men and found them fair. These sons of God had sex with the daughters of man, and they had children known as the Nephilim. These Nephilim spread all over the earth and became such a problem, God sends a flood. In another school of thought, the children, the Nephilim, become the demons, and the Watchers, which was the name for the angels for the angels that supposedly the sons of God refers to, became the devils. So there's more nuances to this and questions about ranks and things like that. And there is some biblical support for this. Genesis 6, 1-4 talks about them. The film were supposed to be giants, very significant, heroic figures. Goliath, who famously fought David, and he was killed by a sling, not a slingshot, a sling, was called an Anakim, and Anakim is another word for Nephilim. What exactly the Nephilim are, no one's really sure, but that's theory number 2. Theory number 3 involves somebody a lot of you have probably heard of, Lilith. Lilith is nowadays is supposed to have been the first wife of Adam. Originally, she was just a demon. But supposedly, she's first wife of Adam. She walks out of the Garden of Eden. And she becomes the mother to all of these demons. Possibly with Satan, possibly with Adam, possibly with Cain when he finally shows up. That's a big question mark. Then the 4th theory, because I realize there are in fact 4, where it gets really, really weird. And this is where I'm going to have to end this video, which is that Genesis 1 tells us about the creation of man and woman. Genesis 2 tells us about the creation of Adam and Eve. And the two, Genesis 1 and 2, are not as is sometimes popularly supposed, just retellings of the same story. Go read them. They don't match up. I'd go read through them both now, but this video is already longer than I wanted it to be. I'm not sure about that one, Lisa. I'd have to look it up. But point being, the theory goes that God created another race before human beings. And these beings, those of you familiar with supernatural probably have heard this story before. But these beings were so horrible and so evil and so monstrous, God destroys them all and starts over and creates Adam and Eve. And the spirits of these beings become your demons. Which one of these stories is true? I don't know. I tend to favor both the fallen angel story you've all heard and the story of the half-breed children. I think they're both true to varying degrees, but I don't know. That may be something else. But this video is already going on 5 minutes, longer than I wanted it to be. So I'm going to end this now, and we'll do one last video for the night about the stages of a demonic attack, and then I'm going to call it quits for the evening. So stay tuned. I'll be right back. If you're watching this later and wondering why does he keep stopping and starting, it's because I want shorter videos instead of somebody being here for the whole hour. You watch the first 20-minute video, come back, watch the next one, watch the next one. It's having to stop and start. But okay, here we go. Last video. Happy Halloween, everyone.